My topic will be how essential for us to know the provisions of law for our day-to-day practice. The common dictum, ignorance is a bliss, does not hold good for laws. Every individual residing in a country presumed to know the law of the land, so does an ophthalmologist. Hence, not knowing a law or a particular provision of law cannot be an excuse in a court of law. There are several acts which can make an ophthalmologist liable for an act of negligence. Primarily among them are Consumer Protection Act, Indian Penal Code, civil suits under various civil laws, Indian Medical Council Act. Among other acts which can also make an ophthalmologist liable, though less frequently, are Transplantation of Human Organ Act, Drugs and Cosmetics Act, Narcotics and Psychotropic Substance Act, Hospital Establishment Act, and the list is endless. Let us now discuss why there is increase in litigation against the medical faculty. During the last 2 decades, the main reason is under various studies, it is found that the main reason of litigation is the failure to. There are several liabilities arising out of different statutes. Mainly they are criminal liability, civil liabilities, or both. Criminal liabilities is considered as a serious offense. In various Supreme Court judgments, criminal liability has been described as gross recklessness, high degree of incompetence, indifference, total apathy, and sometimes with an element of mens rea. That means motive. Criminal negligence is considered to be an offense against the society, whereas civil negligence is an offense against a particular individual or group. The proof of burden in both the cases lies with the prosecution, except in res ipsa loquitur, where the burden of proof shifts to the defendant. Punishment in criminal negligence can be imprisonment or fine or both, whereas in civil negligence it can be compensation or some sort of injunction. Supreme Court in Jacob Matthews case have directed the central government to frame guidelines to prevent unnecessary harassment of doctors arising out of alleged malpractices. Till then, Supreme Court also ruled that a private complaint may not be entertained by court unless it is accompanied by a credible medical opinion, and an investigating officer will not proceed against a doctor for any act of negligence unless he obtains an independent opinion from especially a government doctor practicing in the same branch. So also it ruled that no routine arrest in a case of negligence be carried out unless it is very necessary for the furtherance of investigation and collection of evidence. Why we are so much concerned about allegation of negligence? One person can go to the media house and present his case. The media house, without verifying, can report it, causing widespread commotion, and then follows the media trial in the form of panel discussion, expert opinion, etc. This causes loss of reputation to the doctor even if he is finally exonerated by the court. This can lead to erosion of patient base and ultimately to financial loss. In order to prove negligence, it has to pass 3 tests. The tests are existence of a duty, breach of that duty, and resultant injury. Any doctor has a right to refuse treatment to a patient except in case of emergency. Once he decided to treat, he has to decide what treatment he has to give and how it is to be administered. Any breach in this thing can be a breach in the duty. Once a doctor decides to give a particular treatment, nobody can raise question why it is not done in a manner different than he selected. Just a mere difference in opinion is not a cause for negligence. And once the doctor decides to administer the treatment also, it is expected that he will have a reasonable degree of skill, not necessarily the highest degree of skill. This leaves room for the judicial intervention as to decide what is a reasonable degree of skill in a particular case. Finally, with the breach of duty, there should be some resultant injury or loss to file a case against doctor for medical negligence. Legal doctrines such as law of natural justice, vicarious responsibility, res ipsa loquitur, that means when the thing speaks for itself, and contributory negligence may be sometimes invoked by the court to support or to reject an allegation of negligence. Some precautions I have noted down, just it will be covered extensively by others. Consent should be taken in the patient's own language in presence of witness, and in case where there is chance that the complication is likely to occur due to some pre-existing morbidity condition, one should take high-risk consent. Counseling is an important aspect. Proper counseling reduces the chance of post-op litigation. So it should not be ignored, and it is always advisable to the doctor should counsel the patient as well as the relatives, which is definitely better than the counselor. Needless to say, routine pre-op investigations and where necessary, special investigations should be conducted and documented properly. Wherever there is a doubt or the case is complicated or it is mandatory to take second opinion, it should be taken. Physician fitness also for the safety of the operating surgeon should be sought, and standby anesthetist, cardiologist, wherever necessary, should be arranged. In case of complication, proper documentation as to when it occurs and what steps are taken to mitigate the complication should be documented on the case sheet. OT should contain all resuscitating equipments in servicing condition along with life-saving drugs. In case of trauma and medico-legal cases, detailed history, identification of the patient, identity of the accompanying person, and detailed description of lesion is mandatory. In case of death, one should stop the surgery and try to resuscitate the patient. If possible, get the patient admitted to ICU, and in the case after taking all the steps, if death occurs, one should inform the police and hospital administration, and if possible should not insist on payment of bills. IPC provision section 304A deals with death due to criminal negligence. If proved, can be punished for 2 years of imprisonment or with fine. But IPC section 88 and 92 gives protection to the doctor in such cases. Discharge cards should have detailed description of the condition as well as intervention. The instructions should be clear. There should be no ambiguity in instruction and legible. Review dates should be mentioned, and conditions where immediate consultation is necessary should be explain to the patient. Here insurance means professional indemnity insurance policy. Professional indemnity insurance policy covers the liability of the doctors arising out of any errors of omission or commission while performing his duty. The sum assured, or what is known as the limit of indemnity, is expressed in terms of a ratio of any one accident to any 1 year. Most of the general insurance companies provide this insurance. The premium is decided on the risk group of doctors covered and the limit of indemnity selected as well as the ratio of indemnity. It covers only the civil liabilities and not the criminal liabilities. It is always advisable to inform the insurer before the legal proceeding and make him a co-responder in the legal proceeding. Also, it is wise to update with laws and with case decisions. A knowledge of case decisions can help to avoid such mistakes in future. It is said those who do not learn the lesson from history are condemned to live through it again. One may receive notice, summons or warrants. They are arranged in the order of severity. Notice is a legal proceeding which is received from the lawyer. It is not mandatory to answer the notice, but it is always wise to reply a notice and deny all the allegations separately, if possible with documentary evidences. This notice can later become an evidence in the court if the party produces during legal proceeding, and the court may take serious note of it. So it should be taken seriously and with a nip in the bud approach. Summons is a legal process by court which requires a person to appear before it, and a person receiving summons should appear before the court mentioned in the summons or arrange a lawyer to appear on his behalf. Warrant, when issued by a court, directs the police to produce a person in the court physically. These warrants are often issued when people disrespect summons. Some of the medical records include registration and administrative data, documentation of several procedures, and importantly, some of the registers like OPD register, indoor register, and so forth. These registers are an important piece of evidence. In case of mishap, police may seize these registers and produce as documentary evidence in the court. So they should be meticulously maintained. Anything transpires between a doctor and a patient is a privileged communication protected by Code of Medical Ethics under Indian Medical Council Act. Disclosure of it can drag a medical professional to court for breach in professional secrecy. So it should be disclosed only when permitted by the patient in writing or asked by the court or in public interest. With this, I would like to end my talk and request Dr. Biswajit De to start his